Right, giving this another go. Now the stream isn't for kids, it should allow comment. So most nights I'm sitting here coding, working on Kinto. There's a retro avatar chat streaming platform, which is what I'm using now to put the stream together. However, I don't share it with anyone. So we're going to give that a change tonight. Just take it at a time. So I take some notes, kind of consolidate everything I've been working on and the goals of that. So one of the things I'm working on is preparing a Steam Deck release for Kinto. So you'll be able to pull it off of Steam on your Steam Deck, be able to take advantage of joystick controls and stuff like that. Pretty sweet. So continue working on that. Other thing I've been working on is preparing the remote desktop feature. It takes advantage of the whole streaming system that I've set up here on top of WebRTC, and then adds in remote control for keyboard and mouse. So that's also something that's a high priority. Since it works and be able to use it, some of the things I have to work on is hardening it. So we'll work on that. Another kind of annoying thing that I have to deal with is signing the Windows build. So we're gonna have to look into that as well. We're using Electron Builder, so let's take that into account. I also have to prepare a prod release for Kinto, so basically that means is I have to get all these updates I've been working on through the build pipeline and actually release them. So I think that's something I could accomplish tonight. So I was able to switch which view as a display for you guys by literally just using Kinto here in the background. Every single video tile you see there is a different device. One of them has a little camera pointed at my computer, the other one is sharing my screen, and then another is just sharing a notes app. So through these 3 little videos, work through this. If anyone has any questions on coding or the project, please feel free. So here, any cameras will plug into this computer. See if that fixed the lag a little bit. If not, I'll just go ahead and reshare. Also, just increase the resolution. When it starts, when you're sharing a screen share, it starts with a I think like 1280. You bump that up a bit though. Alright, that's a bit faster. So I can work with that. Let's take a look. So I've got changes to commit, and I've got stuff I'm working on. We'll work through it one at a time. A cool little feature I'm working on as well is a Game Boy mode. So if you're using like a mobile phone on portrait format, half your screen will actually be Game Boy with the arrow keys, with the action buttons, and then Kinto is just displayed at the top part of the screen. So essentially like you're playing a little Game Boy with Kinto. That's another thing we should add in the notes. It's the M1 Mac is starting to show its age. The whole game is draggable, so I can have a little area down here where people walk about and say things and messages are read off and down into the stream.
So that's pretty sweet. And one of
the features I have to finish up as well is
the audio wasn't too capturing from Kinto as well as my mic. Hello, Jamie Lynn. Make sure to subscribe to her in the comments.
take a bit of getting used to it being the code. Definitely adds a component to it. Another thing I need to do background. This little function here just lets me cycle through the different modes in Kinto when you set a background, so it'll be a video stream device, such as I have here. Might want to hide items down here, showing of the tiles, because I want to store that so you can. Yeah, so one of the settings here is showing an avatar video over his head. Users actually streaming in the game or sharing a video, so that those little box above their head, tap on that, change the focus of the background video stream. That if I click this background one, same deal. But every action like that, trying to basically do it. So there's a UI, additional UI somewhere, and you also have it. So yeah, here you go.
Another half-finished project was setting up this wee guy, the Anki Cosmo, and I got that in August when I was over in Paisley, Scotland, visiting my family. My wee brother gave me that. Really cool little device. I think it was released, God, like 2017, and quite powerful. So you can run Python and interact with this little thing. So from what I know right now, I had to take it apart to put a new battery in it. It has a camera, an LCD screen, and a whole bunch of servos, speaker. It can move on tracks. Control this completely with code. So obviously the first thing I did was get it out the suitcase and hook it up into Kinto. So actually what's cool when I boot this thing up, and I could do this now, it spawns an avatar in the room. So just like down here, how I'm an avatar, and I can walk around. The Anki Cosmo also gets its own avatar. Why, right? Well, because I wanted a way to chat with it. So Kinto made sense for that. It already has a whole back end that has rooms, real-time chat, and chat GPT integration. So I was able to quickly fire up an avatar for them. Everything you see here has been painstakingly built over quite a while. I search for, yeah, there we go. So it has a little AI persona that I gave to it, gave it some information such as what it is and where it is. That way when I message this avatar in Kinto, it's able to respond as if it knows that it's in Kinto and it's in Anki Cosmo. And then I was able to take the text that it says and have that basically speak it out loud. So it's able to sit there and be kind of a proxy for like the YouTube chat or something. So I could have the YouTube chat comments being fired at by this wee guy. Another thing I wanted to do to take it further was to take this little camera feed and also get that into the so it would be one of these little windows that we're looking at here, here, here. Say the Anki joined, it would have a little video source, and it'd be quite a bit lower resolution. It's not a great camera or anything, but I thought that'd be sweet to have that camera source come in. So definitely going to be working on that. What's up, Walter? Yeah, so right now this is hopefully one of the last lives that I'm doing from just my local LAN, because I am running this on the LAN. So that's not the production version of Kinto. However, it should be, because if that was actually up right now, you'd be able to join and you'd be able to join in the stream. So that's actually what I'm working on tonight, is try to get all these changes together and compiled into a new build. And then I can spend a little bit of time, let me pull this tab up, talking about what it actually takes to release a build. I swear it was easier when I first started coding, God, like 2007, things were laid out a lot simpler, even though I'm kind of doing the same stuff that I wanted to do back then. Things are more complicated now. Like, JavaScript in the browser, you didn't have to pre-compile it to be anything before releasing it. However, now, you basically have to transpile everything down if you want to take advantage of the latest features and not have errors when running that on all these different browsers. And that's one of the main components of Kinto, right? Is that it runs on anything. Anything has a browser, and you can load Kinto. Kinto will work, and all these features I'm demonstrating will either work or gracefully fail. Like, that's how things should work. Is in, like, I don't want, when you go to Kinto and you don't have support for a webcam, that it doesn't let you share your screen when you can. So everything is built in such a way to be modular as possible. Jamie loves Anki Cosmo, so she has quite a banging wee channel, and I've definitely gotten this set up to be on there as like a representation of her YouTube audience. Sometimes she gets quite carried away with her tying flies or crafting or whatever project she's working on, and I know viewers would like to get her attention. So Anki, Mr. Cosmo here will be set up to represent that. So what's also pretty sweet about this, all these video sources you see here that are basically forming this stream that I'm on right now, all through Kinto. It's just Kinto on a web page. But back out here, just Chrome and full. So I was going to talk a wee bit about this. This is my test bench CI pipeline. That basically means continuous improvement. And in essence, what I have here is different pipelines broken out for different parts of the project. There's 4 main components that make up the pipeline, one of which is the client layer. So that's this area down here with the avatars around items. That's the all that key components. And then it's broken out into Kinto Game, which actually represents the UI, funny enough. So that's everything in the background. That's all the menus, all this functionality is contained in there. And then we have the Kinto server, which mainly is set up to keep track of what items are in the world, what items are in your room, your inventory, another unreleased feature, and where avatars are. And then there's a whole other layer, kind of more built into the UI, which is the peer-to-peer layer. Takes advantage of WebRTC. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the internet right now is like the growth of peer-to-peer data streams within websites. I think it's really exciting because it allows you to make use of devices in a way that I haven't quite seen before. Like you don't have to worry about port forwarding. You don't have to set up a server to rebroadcast what you're saying or what you're doing to get that available to other people. So as time goes on, the server component of Kinto is going to become less and less important, which is a good thing. Ideally, all it should be there for is to kind of act as like a switchboard. So it's gonna, what room are you in? Who's in that room? And then let everything else go to the peer-to-peer layer, where all the connections between the actual users is happening within WebRTC, not the server. So far I have quite a bit of functionality moved over to that, so including being able, when you chat in Kinto, let me open up that. Bubble is actually shown behind the user, but if you look up here, there's a message that says hello. That's coming through the peer-to-peer layer, so that's not going to the server at all. And there's a couple of reasons I want it to work that way. One is I just want to keep load on the server as low as possible, so it's basically just responsible for making the rooms list available to the other users and then knowing who's in that room. And then I want all the actions that come to like users moving around, chatting and stuff like that to be on the peer-to-peer layer. And I think there's a couple of main reasons for that. One is probably security. Anything that has to go through a server, that's another responsibility of mine, and I have to be sure, to make sure that chat isn't held or there isn't logs that are unavoidably capturing chat, stuff like that. And obviously, like, it just makes sense to move that to the peer. And it's still really easy to moderate in Kinto because the whole room list and the user list authentication is all controlled by the servers. So I can still ban, mute people, kick people from rooms, things like that. So this isn't a way to allow people to use the system. It's just, I think, a natural progression of moving more real-time interaction on web pages from the traditional server setup. The word I hate is the cloud. I think that's terrible calling it the cloud because it's basically just rebranding something that's always been done. People have always been running things on servers. Just now that they're moving those servers out of their offices, out of their homes, and running them somewhere else. I think that's a positive thing. I tell you, it's quite expensive actually. A lot of companies get caught up in that. So anything I can do to really reduce the need for a large cloud server. Jamie Lynn nominates the robot for USA president. I completely agree with this. As someone that can't vote, I think that's a good thing. Yeah, cloud was definitely a marketing campaign in disguise. I'm kind of curious who was the ones that kicked it off. My first experience was maybe around 2014 at a company I worked for, a telecom company, and they got the word down like, hey, we're going to move everything to Amazon. And I'm glad I got that opportunity to help with that migration. They had basically like a whole TV guide system and everything, closed captions, all built on PHP, big monolithic piece of software that could easily be broken. So one of the tasks I was asked is like, hey, how do we make use of the cloud? There's a couple of cool things that I was exposed to, and it kind of changed the way and how I view even server computing today. And that was the introduction to me at the time of like stateless functions. So being able to develop little bits of backends and then being able to use them like either together or independently. You could kind of build up like a recipe book of features, and then you could build a client that leverages all that. So that was AWS's Lambda. But we were also asked to basically set up an account with them, and I set up my own little account, and then I accidentally had my credit card on it because I think you needed to do that to like create the account. Well, I set up like a DynamoDB instance, and then like a month passed, and I got a bill for like $317. So that was like how I quickly learned that this cloud thing is kind of dangerous without some information. But thankfully, I was able to get that refunded. But there's been multiple other instances where I've seen companies, teams set up like an account to get like free tier access on Amazon, and then they go spin something else up, and then there's $1,000 gone or $1,200 because they spun up the wrong EC2 instance. And yeah, it comes down to information, I suppose. Talk a little bit about what some of the things, some of the actions in Kinto or like just chat programs in general that should be moved over to peer-to-peer. And one of the simplest ones I can think of right now is the typing notification. So say someone's typing into the chat box, on the other end, you see a little typing icon like, Snapple is typing. Why would that be sent through the server? Am I going to send that every time they hit a character, or am I just going to send that when they start typing and then stop typing, send another event to basically put that icon away? It's just a wasted time. So that was an easy one to pop into the peer-to-peer layer. So whenever a user types in a room, whoever else is in that room will see a typing note. And it doesn't cost me anything because it doesn't go through the Kinto server. And chat goes through that, users moving about goes through that, and all the video, all the microphones, all the screen sharing, all going through the peer-to-peer. It's great. Otherwise, quite expensive. And Jamie had an idea that one of these streams, while I'm getting my foot in that code in front of people, is to do a mini game, and she actually did some art for this. So probably look at that. Definitely a big hole in Kinto is having mini games in it. This room right here, even though it's running on my local LAN, was made by a user. Not who, but one of them wants to coolest ones. He figured out stacking. He was able to put blocks in a room and then figured out he could put another block on top of that. Created a really good effect down here. What else? So he also found that there is items that can clear tiles. Rockets here. A lot of this like new art was done by Jamie Linden. Definitely bloody cool. Then over here we have some fish floating in some water. Technically swimming Kinto. Another cool idea maybe would be like a little fishing mini game. Stuff with water and when the conditions are right, we spend a lot of time diving and snorkeling. So more we could capture that into it. At the end of the day, we have to come home and this right here is a teleporter. You put these on tiles that are not accessible. So say have an area actually, but say there's an area over here. You put a teleport in there. Click it. There's hidden tiles behind. Each one of these tiles he put down one by one. Yeah, I like cabbage. Sauerkraut. What's the other one? Korean one. Kimchi. Oh, that stuff is good kimchi. I find most stuff in jars is pickled. You go to kintoparty.com. Right up here in the top left, I'll probably make this more streams. Go to kintoparty.com, see this room, find the stream, add it. Definitely do check it out. And you can also, if you have a cell phone, an iPhone, or Android, search for Kinto in the App Store. There's some reasons to do that. Despite Kinto being available and everything, right? You could just load it on your phone's web browser. If you want notifications to work, definitely recommend you go ahead and grab that app. The native apps, I'm able to add some additional functions to Kinto that wouldn't be able to work otherwise. So one of those is notifications. I recommend you check it out. Something I definitely like to explore with Kinto too is a Kinto API. So the way I've set this up in Kinto is everything is set up as an event. And without getting too much into the weeds here, that means Kinto itself is coded as if it was a plugin, every single layer of it. That way, it's really easy to code for, and then have other people who might be interested in coding or already can code to come in here and also add features. You just basically have to know which functions are already there and how to call them.
Yeah, I thought Nazareth was American. It's cool. Jimmy enjoys finding the bands that are Scottish that she enjoys. I don't know how many we're up to now. How many of those bands are actually? I think it's at least three. Who's that other one? Polly something? You thought he was Italian? I love Nazareth. It's from Scotland. And take a second here. What's going on? Try to see if there's an example. Jump into it just to kind of demonstrate what it would take to make a plugin for Kinto. Those I'd need some. What would you guys like to see as a plugin for Kinto that adds like a new feature or changes a feature that's already there? Was one thing I could do just to give a kind of an idea of the scale or just how much code was put together to make this work. Is kind of showing the directory tree of just the UI. Like, all these different folders you see here are different components that show in the world. Everything's a top bar, background right here. Theme panel is a component. Also got components inside of it. Component for video drop down, audio drop down. Oh, there's just so much impact. So it take quite a few streams to work through all this. So if we go down to one folder right here, peer-to-peer folder, you can see some of the components that I've started building out that leverage the peer-to-peer layer. Create it. Stream.js file is responsible for basically setting up all the handshaking that's required to create a peer-to-peer connection. And then RDP.js, one of the features I was talking about earlier that I'm working on a separate build of Kinto for. Basically, you could download a dedicated RDP version of the Kinto app or program, sorry, for like your desktop. And this would let you control that computer through your web browser just by going into your room. The reason I'm doing that specifically for myself is to set up the computer that I'm using to actually host this stream that's running OBS and doing a screen capture on my browser so I can control that like while I'm in another room. So I don't have to keep running back and forth to start or stop a stream or start recording or something. And then out of all of that,
would allow other users to also do the same thing, but keep things simple. It's going to be a separate remote desktop build just for that. I know Walter's quite excited about that. Oh, that's funny. One of the first plugins that I did, I had like a bunch of downloads, more than that I've ever gotten for anything. It was probably like, I don't know, like 2009, 2008, when MSN Messenger was still in open circulation, and that's what we were all using to chat. I did a plugin that took if you typed the color, the word red into the chat, and then just made that text red. And it had like 130,000 downloads. Let's see if I can go give that a go. Somewhere in here I have all the logic that's responsible for basically formatting a chat message. Trying to find into chat. Here's another feature that wasn't released. I think Walter got to see it. Basically set your room background as a YouTube video, and then also set your room to have a playlist of YouTube videos, and that'd give you like a little music player you could use. So if I had like a playlist playing, everyone in the room would be listening to that video too, and I could like get to the next song or whatever. A lot of features basically turned off. All this logic we're looking at here, very specific that you want. So, for a file upload, hooked into here, resize your window. A new person joins the room, got to upload. Intel's definitely the biggest project I've done in React because one, I've done it all myself, and two, it's just absolutely gigantic. This is what a lot of code is for me, is basically backtracking. One, to figure out what's there, and two, just to code the new. Every action in Kinto, within reason, is laid out taking advantage of the whole global event meta. So that means I don't have to have bits of code relying on each other that don't need to. The more or less rely on the name of the event they're listening for, and then the parameters or properties. That made it really easy for me to like add new layers to Kinto. So when it came to doing the iPhone or Android apps, easily able to hook into all the existing code, but add like a native component or a native tab bar, have that open room chat or room list or something like that, without having to go ahead and like set up like a whole new layer to make it do the action. Literally just call the name of the event,
give it the parameters I wanted. Boom, that native component is now triggering that bit of functionality that's already been called. These are some of the components I was talking about, like audio device drop, video device drop, file upload, looking for chat mess. That's what we'd want. Chat mess. You can see there's already a couple of things. I'm assuming that you can understand this. If you'd make a chat message in Kinto in a room and you include like an image link, this is the little piece of regex that detects that and then replaces the text with that image as a HTML image, essentially. Vertcon. Like a parser. Okay, cool. Here's the custom pattern that detects if you post like a YouTube link. Converts that into a video that you can cut out. Gonna look. Honestly, I forgot about something. I open the chat and just. Oh, let's see. I type video chat. Could replace this message with these videos. That's cool. uh, oh, we got a pixel editor. Like pixel. Go in the chat. I type settings. Set keyboard. The little MIDI keyboard that I coded. Sit there and play. If this chat window was
Number one, inventory. And I thought we might do that in the chat just because trading, when it comes to like trading items and stuff, I was thinking of just leveraging the chat and then loading in your inventory items you select as a chat message, basically DMing the user that you want to trade with items. One of the reasons. Coolest thing about React View, just how you can build a component one time and then use it on all different. That comes down just to stateless, something that I'm going to pick that up on another stream, basically set up a plugin development for Walter's idea, which is to change the color of chat messages depending on which color you typed in the chat. It's pretty easy to do. And we'll be able to take advantage of you can just see the sheer amount of code organization required for all the different what. I'm going to take this opportunity to commit changes, basically mark changes that I've made complete, review them real quick, and then make essentially a pull request that fired off all the new version I can. So it looks like in here, chat, stream chat, hit the chat window. Show that again. And then also, when you're in streaming, hide the little chat bar that shows at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to commit that. So these changes I'm looking at here are part of the Game Boy feature I was talking about, which mobile phone takes the bottom half of the screen and makes it Game Boy controls. So I had to map those controls and actually fire those into the browser to emulate cursor keys and stuff. I'm going to go ahead and commit this. Okay, so now I'm looking at the panel. Is this area right here. Added the ability, if you click one of these videos, it makes the background entire room that video, capture that change. This code right here. So this is an example of one of the events that really easy to tie into Kinto. If I want to set the selected host, or basically host media stream should be there in the background, fire off that event, this event name, and then I can pass off the ID, and then the rest of Kinto knows what to do with that information. There's another function here in Kinto, which is called dispatch peer event, and that allows me to fire the same event off into the room for anyone else that's connected to your peer group. So the changes look good by me. And one of the interesting things I noticed, when you click a video in the stream panel at the bottom bar, I call it participant controls. One of them is a record button. You record what's in that little window, save it. So if I share my screen here, I am on my computer and I hit this recording, it makes it really easy to create little shorts or stop record. Second, going to ask me if I want to download. This little function right here, extremely helpful to record footage again. I don't have to have another screen capture program. Windows has one built in and stuff, but for example on the Steam doesn't. So I'm able to just literally share my screen from a Steam Deck, hit record, Windows computer or whatever, video on it. Really cool for doing. This one here is really interesting. Little keyboard. If I click this and I'm running Kinto RDP, actually lets me interact with that if I'm on the. So this little video becomes like a remote desktop client. Extremely cool. Then we have a play stop button. Then I have the ability to set. That already happens when you click this video. Part of one of the changes that I just described. Keep clicking it. That's different. If you look down here, it can hide the tiles of the room in the avatar. Avatars or the viewers of the video will be part of the stream, but none of the tiles and items will be kind of helpful. show code and not covered by band button. That's the host control. The participant up here. You're only going to see one of these bars at the Kinto stream panel. God, this first one replaces your avatar's face. Avatar down here, it'll replace its face with webcam. Uses machine learning model to extract your face, map it to the avatar, and it all happens in the browser. It's not ChatGPT. It's happening on the cloud. It's just happening on your. But the whole reason I explained all this is these click events here. When I click the video, to display the participant control, interfering with the click event in the remote desktop video. There's a lot to juggle here, Will. That's why I commented. To be risky and commit. So this is like the main component of the Kinto UI. Basically sets up all the other components and passes them in context, properties, or whatever. So if I add like a whole new component to Kinto and it's a top layer component, I put it in this file. There is quite a bit. Over time, I hope to break it up more and more. This is too big. Looking for changes. I'm still doing a code review on my. So it looks like I put the Game Boy skin behind the toggle, which once it's behind the toggle, like this Game Boy parameter name, I could have a UI button or a setting on the user's account. Turn this from false to true would show the Game Boy skin. That's why I put things behind toggles. This was actually like a little thing that I picked up from companies I contracted for, is they put every single feature they have developed behind a toggle. Sometimes they'll even version it Game Boy V3. That way they could have different versions of components all running in the same code base, but at runtime decipher which component should be enabled. So I thought that was brilliant. Definitely applying that to a build. That's one of the coolest things about being employed as a self-taught developer for any amount of time, is you get real-world exposure to code and code in production, and there's a whole bunch that comes with that, right? You get to see things that are done great and things that are done not so great. It's invaluable, absolutely invaluable. There's nothing but harden you day after day. More opportunities that you take, better. I'd even argue, like a lot of the stuff that I do now is not just one language. Yeah, my day job, I was hired as a Vue developer, and that was the first time I used Vue, but I was quite familiar with React by that time, and Vue isn't that dissimilar. Now they have me building Swift UI, so I'm doing iPhone development now, full on native development. And because over time, God, over a decade ago, even more now, I was working with Objective-C and storyboarding that on iOS, so I could build apps. And
found myself as a Swift UI developer company. Game Boy toggle. Scroll down here. So I added a new function, like a video in the game layer, triggers the stream clicked via of some additional events. So a set the currently selected host, so this basically sets the background of the room to be this video. I have that both in the stream panel UI and also the game. Oh, has to go. Mobiles are back. So this is the component that's responsible for implementing a remote desktop protocol, at least my own version of it, that uses webrtc. So, did add a couple of things in here that have to be removed. Looks like I added a duplicate so what I do is it captures your mouse movements, keyboard typing, and scroll buttons and stuff like that, and then transmits that over WebRTC to a Kinto instance that's running as a program on the computer, and then emulates that mouse event. There's a lot to figure out in there. I knew that the first thing I had to do was capture the mouse position, transmit that and stuff. But when you actually get into it, there's also like a lot more to it. There's velocity. There is when you capture a key when you're typing. Key down in HTML5 fires that key off continuously until it lifts your finger up from a button. But if I do that in Visual Studio Code, if I keep hitting the letter J, for example, it only captures it once. If I keep hitting the cursor keys, see it moves continuously without me having to press it. There's a lot of nuances in keyboard control and mouse control that I'm working through lately. This can go. So I did add the ability for the mouse speed to be controlled by the client, which lets me put a little settings window there, the slider, drag that up or down to configure the mouse speed. So you don't have to change anything. A whole bunch of logic here to detect if you're holding a modifier key. So something like Shift or the Control Windows key, Alt Command on Mac OS X. That's something that, in order to work, so say like Control C or Control V for copy and paste, I can't just send that key over one at a time. I have to send it over together. So that's why I keep a track of what modifier keys you have selected as you type another key. And I combine that to one one object and then shoot that over other peer, which then deciphers that and then spits that out. Accessibility layer, which actually makes the mouse move key type up or down. Remote desktop. Yes. If you're new to the stream here, please feel free to comment and ask any questions. Or let me know what you're working on. Looks like here I added some support for dark mode in Kinto, so listen to your web browser configurations or your system configuration, switch it to a dark mode. I'm not able to commit this to the project right now. Can't remember exactly why, but I think changing out theme for Bootstrap at runtime causes some issues. Hold that back. Oh. Oh, okay. So it looks like here I was condensing two drop downs into one. So looking at the stream panel right, is the host component. Contains all the buttons. Show your video or audio or screen share stream. And one of them, very far right, it lets you switch this window into sidebar, a window, a popover, full screen, exit. It also lets you control your camera zoom, select your resolution for your video source, any other settings. I'm not going to commit this. Still an absolute. All these features work, by the way. All stuff that I'm using. If I drop this down, it switches out. These buttons right here, these are dynamically generated based on whatever properties are available for your selected media stream. So auto gain control, echo cancellation, isolation. That's all built into the browser. So that's pretty sweet. But I wanted to give the user a way to control that. But I'm going to standardize these buttons, make them look like buttons down. A reusable little button system component that I created. I'll be able to just feed it a couple of properties. And case, we're just going to do an automatic handler. Just these settings. So I'll be able to do that. See if there's any. Looks like disabled tooltips buttons. Jamming quite a bit of functionality into that host bar, and everything is completely relevant. Can't remove it. It all needs to be there, but the tooltips were taken up. Keep them in there, but disable them. I did add the ability to add component children to a button. So I can change a button into a drop down, or I can have a button become a scroll wheel or whatever. Keep that. Crap out. Okay, so this is definitely a relevant change. I added a new flag or config toggle to enable or disable RDP. Right now I have them enabled for me, and anyone else has this build, so accident. Down here, it looks like when your RDP video session updates, triggers this little function, and then unloads the RDP control, and then reloads it for that specific bit. That's definitely right. This is not. Disable in band. Here's an example of navigating all these different browsers. A lot of web development today has been abstracted with polyfills that are all built into your package JSON. So when you build your project, back to it, you don't have to worry about everything, worry about back in the day. But there's a couple of features that are not like that. And one of those is expanding a div or a video to be full screen. So, an intuitive person might be able to call video request full screen. That would be the case. So if we keep going, we have Moz request full screen. This is for Mozilla. This is for Firefox, because it doesn't support this, or it does, or it doesn't on specific. Have Moz request. And then we have WebKit request full screen. So that might be for like Safari. That doesn't have support for request full screen. Then we have MS request full screen. So that might be to support Edge, whatever the heck, Microsoft side. So we can also go full screen now. And it looks like there is an other function for WebKit. Also enter full screen. So not only do we have WebKit request full screen, so quite an impressive amount of different functions that have to be called on a single video element just to get your video to be brilliant. I can only imagine what it's like to get into development today without knowing how things are laid, why they're laid. I think that'd be quite difficult. It's always, getting into coding, and it's like, where do I start? I think you should start with something that interests you, and then bring it down to what can I do with that thing. The first project I built that was completely from scratch was just an upload site where you can images, share them with people, just like a Imager or whatever, one of those websites, up2go.com. You could just go on there and upload images. And then I was like, well, I want to give people the ability to see where the images were posted. So then I started implementing features like that. So I was making like for example, to do that feature, I had to make a PHP file, pretend it was a PNG or a JPEG or a GIF, and then it would serve up that file. But it would also execute that PHP script, so I could go ahead and write in the database.
this IP address, loaded it better. And then I could take that data that was in that table, my SQL table, and then display the file uploader. You'd see like, hey, my image was used in this form. So that was pretty cool. And then I added in comments, so a user could sit there and comment on stuff on the public gallery, and then gave the users ability to create galleries. So just creating that initial thing that was quite simple, just upload an image, spawned into all these different things, and I ended up with like a whole site before. Another feature that's disabled or hidden. So as a GIF maker, you could go in your room and something funny or show something, and then click create GIF. And it will take like 30 seconds or like 10 seconds. What happened in the room, and then make a GIF that you just currently disabled. Mainly because I put all my energy instead of generating those GIFs into setting up the stream control. My app, SCS app, all the styles are basically big sheet because everything in Kinto is all used at once. Something I need. We have 22 changes sitting ready to be committed, uploaded. So go ahead and do that. Ooh. Uploading those to Git. And then we have to move on to the client. It looks like quite a bit of logic added in here to support Steam Deck that I'm going to have to capture in this build. Specifically for the joysticks. Change this function to title function. See, this is why code reviews your own stuff, issue on stuff, readily helpful. Because I did not intend to. Basically, this function's called when you add a tile to a room. Down here, the user drops one of these tiles. It should automatically rebuild an array of all the tiles that are available for these to walk on. I accidentally removed.
added that back. Source controls. What it looks like in the state here. I added two new properties: hover row and hover column. That way I could use the cursor to control the tile selector. I had that separate from active. Keep that. I'll stop following. Camera to be. That also means I have to add follow user option. When a user clicks an avatar that has a video stream above its head, I now am emitting the media stream ID as well as the media. That way I could have the UI react. Background. Keep that. And here, this is an example of JavaScript. Just how experience doesn't matter. Grab that. Is an example of a bug that's existed in Kinto building for a long time. So I noticed when I tried to drop an item on a tile 0, like on a tile as a column or a row that is 0, it's false. So this piece of code was preventing you from spawning any items on this row of tiles. And that's really quite annoying. So what I was doing is I was just trying to guard against this function being called without a row or column being defined. So instead of me checking explicitly for null or undefined, I was just checking to see if different than X or Y. That was enough. In the case there was a 0 in there, to basically always have that return false. Early terminate. This super simple line of code broke spawning any items on those tiles. Every room. That's fine. This function lets me add tiles to a room map without sending it to the server first. And that's helpful because I might change how building works a little bit. Especially as I'm trying to do more complicated. I'm going to keep that. Looks like I just did some guarding of values here. So this question mark period, question mark before accessing a value in an array or object, fantastic. Knowledge coalescing operator. A clean way of being able to check to see if a parameter or property is defined without throwing a runtime at it. That in JavaScript. Like I increase the amount of tiles by default rendered when you join a room. We can go keep that. Capture work or check. This change. So this is an avatar. Also housing properties relate to any streams that user has currently going. And one of those things that I wasn't sending to the UI from the client was what varying the stream. Capture that. Oh boy. Plugins. Typo in my folder for plugins.
Right, I think I'm gonna grab some food. Get some notes down specifically around showing how to make a plugin for Kindle. Able to find some of the plugins that I've built before that like add features to Kindle that don't exist in the code base. That'd be cool because something you can follow along with and try yourself. Right, hopping on. Cheers.